If you are interested in podcasting, then this video is for you because I'll be sharing some of the lessons that I've learned already having launched my podcast just a couple of weeks ago. I'll be explaining my thought processes in terms of the idea behind the podcast itself, the choice of platforms for both the live recording and also the distribution as well. And I'll be sharing some of the technical challenges I've faced because there's been a few learning experiences already. And I'll also be talking about monetization and how this fits into the bigger picture of the Take One Tech brand as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So in case you missed it, I have launched this podcast. It is the Live Streamer Backstage Podcast. You can subscribe at livestreamerbackstage.com. And in it, essentially, I interview fellow live streamers to talk all about how they are using live streaming really as a tool for business. And then also, for some people, this is going to be that the actual live stream itself is the business. So they're looking to grow their, grow their brand, or maybe they're live streaming to Amazon and generating revenue that way. Or also potentially people who are just using live streaming as a tool to build brand awareness around their existing business and use it as a tool to serve their sort of wider community and so on. So that is kind of the sort of theme behind the podcast. I have already done a couple of episodes, so we've got two of them in the bag. So we had an interview with JP High Tech last week. This week just gone was Dr. Efrain Lopez, Dr. Elo, and then next Tuesday I'll be talking with James Hicks, talking about technology in the live streaming space. So that's where we are with it so far. It's recorded live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and I'm streaming to a couple of different platforms. I'll talk about that and my choice behind those platforms a little bit later as well. But for now, though, why did I start this podcast? I thought I'd give a little bit of a sort of background to it. This isn't actually the first podcast I started. When I started my YouTube channel, I had the idea to start a podcast at the same time that basically documented the process of me growing my channel. It was really a bit of an afterthought. It was just having started my channel, I thought maybe that would be a good idea. And so I just pretty much on the spur of the moment went straight on into it. I gave it very little thought, very little planning, set up the podcast. I came up with a very, very imaginative title, My YouTube Journey. Literally 5 minutes thought, went and registered it with Apple Podcasts or wherever I did it at the time. Didn't really know the process to go through in order to set one up. And that was it. I recorded a couple of them. The idea was it was going to be a weekly thing, as I say, following along with my process. I recorded them in actually just recording into the computer, and then I was going to try and use Descript to actually edit it and remove the ums and ers. And it basically lasted 3 episodes, and then I didn't do any more. So why did that podcast sort of fail to take off, or why did I not stick with it? There's a couple of reasons, really. First of all was friction. So there was just too much friction involved in actually recording it, and then the idea of going back in and editing it. You know, my whole ethos on this channel, or the whole driving force behind this channel, is the no edits. So I didn't really enjoy that process. I was also recording it as an audio only podcast. So you would think that would be easier, but somehow I think I've focused, it somehow changed the way that I was looking at it. And so, as I say, I just did not keep it up. The other thing was, it was really just kind of like an afterthought. So it was, having started the channel, it was at the time when I decided that I was just going to go to all of the platforms. I was also multi-streaming to YouTube, to Twitch, to various other different platforms that I didn't even really have any real interest in building a community on. It was just a case of I could do it, so I did. And that was a bit like the podcast. It was a case of, while I'm in this whole content creation phase, let me do that as well. And essentially, I tried to do all of the things all at once, right from the beginning, and something had to give. And so because the YouTube and the video content was my primary focus, that podcast fell by the wayside. So it's taken me a little while to get back to doing a podcast. I've always liked the idea of doing a podcast. I'm a big podcast listener, so it's certainly something, an area that I'm interested in. I probably listen to more content than I watch, in terms of, I listen to audio podcasts rather than watching YouTube videos. So as I say, it's certainly a medium that I'm really interested in. So with the Live Streamer Backstage podcast, obviously the title and the brief explanation that I've just given is self-explanatory. It's just an opportunity to share the information and share the experiences of other live streamers with other people in the live streaming community, because we've all got different experiences, we've all got different use cases, and we can all learn from one another. From my point of view, it's also interesting for me to learn myself. I'm doing it to connect with other live streamers and learn from them as well. And indeed, the two episodes that I've recorded with JP Hightech and also with Dr. Elo, I've already learned some things. I've already implemented some things from those. So it's a great learning experience for all involved. And of course, it's an opportunity to indulge ourselves in the the whole tech side of stuff, because I don't think there's many live streamers who don't actually love the tech that's involved with it. So yeah, that's another sort of reason behind it, is just to sort of indulge that passion that I have for tech and looking at different people's studios. I mean, we always see what's on the front side of the camera, but don't always see the sort of the other side. So, like for example, this is my setup at the moment. Most people don't normally see that on the regular videos that I do. So it's nice to sort of see a little bit behind the scenes to see how people are doing what they are doing. So that's another reason from my point of view to sort of pick the brains of all of these great people that I'm going to be having on. Obviously, JP and Dr. Elo, it was a pleasure to speak to those. Really great to have them on. Two people that I've got a lot of admiration and respect for. And we've also got... I'm pretty much booked up actually through to I think nearly December now. So lots of great guests are coming up. So it's going to be a real treat for me and hopefully for everyone else as well to hear what all of these great people have got to say. So that is kind of the idea behind it, and why I'm really actually super excited about this compared to when I, as I say, did that first attempt last year. This one I've got a real passion for it. It's going to be a real focus for me on the and on this channel as well. And I'll come back to the platforms in a moment, actually. But yeah, I think it's going to be something that's going to really help the sort of Take One Tech community as well. So I should probably just mention, if you aren't already in the Discord, the Take One Tech family, you can join that over at takeonetech.io/family. That is where we talk about all the sorts of things that I talk about on my channel, but we just get to talk about them together and help one another as well. So definitely check that out if you are not already a member of the Take One Tech community, and it's free to join and just come in, have a look around, and hopefully we can help one another to all grow together. So let's have a little chat then. Well, first of all, let me just check in with some of you lovely people. We've got all the lovely people in today. Hey, Orbs, great to see you. And we've also got, we've got two Aubreys in. Actually Aubrey. So we got Aubrey and actually Aubrey as well. Hey Eileen, great to see you as well. Hey Keely, just popped into the Discord back channel as well, and obviously got Peter in the Discord back channel as well. By the way, what I'm talking about there is if you are interested to join my channel memberships, you can find the little join button down below, and one of the levels, the Backstage Pass level, means that you can come and actually watch the live stream and chat backstage in the Discord as well. But I digress slightly there. So let's also go down this list. Let me see who else. Hey, Rob, great to see you here as well. 1 second. I've just lost my button. Where's my Stream Deck button? I'll have to get rid of this some other way. There we go. Get that off the screen. Great to see you, Rob. And also Dina, great show yesterday with Michelle, Silver Lining Home Place. Breaking new ground in the world of culinary channels on YouTube. And we've got Michael in the UK. Great to see you too as well. I always appreciate the UK folks staying up late. And let's have a little look. Hello, Mike. I don't believe I've seen you on the channel before. Great to see you here. Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad that you have found my content useful, and that's what I strive to do. So really pleased about that. So yeah, I thought I'd talk about my my sort of workflow and the way that I'm producing the podcast, because as I mentioned earlier, the whole point about this is I need to have it as sort of frictionless as possible, and it is to a point. There are still some little sticking points and some little parts that I've got to iron out, but I'm also sort of breaking new ground for myself in terms of I'm having to acquire a couple of extra skills ones, or at least sort of polish off some old ones that I had. So in terms of the actual flow of the podcast then, So it is recorded live. It's recorded live to Amazon and also to LinkedIn. So the whole point of the show, as I mentioned earlier, was that it is focused on the business side of stuff, but then also on the gear side. So people talking about their studios. We get a backstage look at or behind the scenes look, I should say, at people's studios as well. So it seemed like a good fit for both of those platforms. Amazon and also LinkedIn, teaching business folk really how to use these live streaming tools, because there's lots of people that are now looking to get into live streaming purely for a business point of view. So having it all over there from that point of view is certainly going to be helpful. And then of course we are talking about the gear. So there's lots of people on Amazon that are literally shopping for the very tools that we're talking about. So being able to get some extra insight from the people that are actually using them, during the buying process is certainly helpful from that point of view. So from a service point of view, that's why it's on those two platforms. From a purely selfish point of view, I'm looking to grow my Amazon following, because on the Amazon Influencer Program, there are 3 different levels. So the first one basically is where everyone comes into. You just have to post a couple of videos or 3 videos and then also live stream for 90 minutes. It's just to prove that you are capable of doing it, I suppose. And then you get onto what's called the insider level of the Amazon Influencer Program. Now, the next level, the final level, is called the Amazon A-list. And for that, what you need to do is you need to have 2,000 followers on Amazon, and you also need to be basically shipping a certain amount of product every month through people clicking on your links during either your live streams or your shoppable videos. And shoppable videos are where you upload a video, maybe a review or an explainer video, something like that, and then those appear on the product pages of those products. Right down at the bottom, actually. With the live streams, though, when you are live streaming, you have what's called the carousel, which is kind of like a little bar that sits right underneath the live, and that's got products that you decide that you want to include in your carousel for your show. So when I'm doing the live recording of the podcast, I've got all of the gear list that the guests have sent over. So that's all down in the carousel down below. And then what that means is that your live stream then appears as well as on the Amazon Live page. And incidentally, if I just drop in my Amazon Live link, you can see it on the page there, and you can also see it on the Amazon Live homepage as well. But your live stream appears right at the top of all of the product pages, or some of the product pages of the products that you've featured in your carousel. So I'm looking to basically get to that A-lister level on Amazon Live, because one of the things about that is once you reach that level, then it's basically look like a little thing to be able to show to if you're trying to secure brand deals, which I will be in the future as the channel grows. Then that's just some extra little level that you can say, well, you are an A-list Amazon influencer. So at the moment, I think I'm only on something like, I don't know, 50 followers or 60 or something thereabouts. I haven't checked in a week or so. But that's what I'm looking to do, is to grow up to that 2,000. So by all means, if you haven't already, feel free to pop over and follow me on Amazon. But what happens is when I'm doing the live stream, then there'll be people who are just sort of popping into the live stream, discovering it through being on the product pages. That's the kind of discovery method. And in terms of revenue from that, by the way, whilst I'll get onto monetization of the podcast a little bit later, but that is obviously another idea behind being on Amazon, is it's a way to monetize the live recording of the podcast. Now, with the shoppable videos on Amazon, I won't go down the Amazon rabbit hole too much, but with what they call shoppable videos, which are the pre-recorded, they are basically there for, well, not forever, but they're always there. And they can always be featured on the product pages. Whereas the live stream is kind of like a one-hit thing in terms of revenue, because you appear on Amazon Live on the page. You'll be featured on there whilst you are live streaming. You'll also be on the product pages whilst you are live streaming. But then after the fact, there's not a huge amount of replay. So it's not like YouTube, where people are going to discover the replays of your lives for a long time to come. So it is very much a short window in that respect. But what I'm also doing, though, is when we start getting onto the recordings that I'll talk about, and the actual audio podcast as well, then I'm including obviously all of my Amazon affiliate links for all of the products that have been mentioned as well, and so that's another way to monetize. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. So that is the sort of the selfish reasons why I'm streaming to Amazon, as well as obviously helping out the folks over there. With LinkedIn, I mentioned about, obviously having a business focus. So that is the reason why I want to stream to there. I'm also looking to grow my following on LinkedIn as well. So I should probably drop my LinkedIn thing. So if we're not connected on LinkedIn, then by all means, head over and connect with me over there as well. Because when I mentioned earlier that I'm looking to attract brand deals at some point as I grow the channel. And so all of the brand managers and people like that, they're all on LinkedIn. So I want to sort of build a following and build a sort of awareness of me and what I'm doing over there. So that's kind of another selfish reason for me to be going to to LinkedIn rather. So that's where it's going live, and I'll come on to the process for it in a minute because there's a few issues that I've discovered with that. In fact, why not just dig straight into it? So I'm streaming to both of those using the Ecamm Live Beta, which has got multi-streaming. So I'm streaming to both Amazon and I'm also streaming to LinkedIn. One of the things I'm doing is I'm repurposing the content. So as well as the recorded version for the audio podcast, I'm also posting a full video recording to YouTube. I'll come on to that in a moment as well, because I was not too sure about that. Hashtag Keely was right. I got some advice from a friend. But I'll come on to exactly what my thought process behind that was. But what I'm also doing is I'm repurposing the content to make short form content. Now, one of the I won't say issues, but one of the facts about Amazon is that you can only stream to it in 720. You can't send HD or 4K. Now, when you are multi-streaming with Ecamm, you are using basically the lowest common denominator. So if I'm going to multi-stream to Amazon and to LinkedIn, although LinkedIn can technically accept 1080, it's got to be 720 because I've got to set the stream size in Ecamm to basically whatever Amazon will accept. That also means that the video that I'm recording as well is at 720. So basically, I've got that resolution to work with for any repurposing that I want to do. Now, because I want to repurpose these for vertical videos, it's not even that I want to scale it up to HD. It's actually HD vertical. So that is rather than 1920 by 1080, it's actually 1080 by 1920. So I'm effectively trying to scale up a 720 height piece of video up into 1920 height. So it's over double the size. And what that means is from the first couple that I've recorded, what I've noticed immediately was, my resolution's kind of a bit poor here because I've basically stretched everything out to try and fit it up to that size. So that is a little bit of an issue. And I was wondering what would be the best way to deal with that. I just so happened to have been on Kirk Nugent's podcast last when was it? Yesterday, the day before? Can't remember exactly. Lost track of days now. But he's also does a similar thing where he's streaming to multiple platforms, and one of which is Amazon Live. And what he does is he basically does the streaming part with something like Restream, or in his case, he uses StreamYard. And all he does is uses the web-based, the browser-based streaming platform, and then takes his Ecamm Live virtual camera into that. Now, that might sound like a little bit of a, doubling up there. But what that means is you can actually set the resolution of Ecamm to be whatever resolution you want to record at. So, in my case, what I'll be doing is recording at 4K. But you can then just take the virtual camera into the browser-based StreamYard platform, and then have StreamYard be the one that deals with all of the downsizing. So it's just going to take it in, and it's going to broadcast it at 720 or whatever. So that means that then you've got the best. You really have got the best of both worlds. So I'm really glad that I spoke to Kirk and was on his podcast before I'd made too many episodes, because what it's going to mean is I'm going to have a higher quality. It is then, something that I've put in a feature request for Ecamm as well. Now that we've got, this brand new feature that's only in beta for this multi-streaming, the idea of being able to have, multiple different resolutions for the multiple different places you're streaming to would be really useful. That, though, is something that would obviously put a load on your computer, because you're basically doing, multiple encodes of it. So, if whatever your processor's using, it would use presumably, double the amount if you were doing double the different resolutions. In fact, even more so if you were suddenly going to be going up to a much higher resolution, it would actually just amplify the issue. So I'm not sure, but in the interim, what it means is I'm going to be restarting my my Restream, or in fact, I probably will end up using StreamYard, because I went in and had a look at both of the platforms, because I'd never used Restream in the browser before. I'd only ever done it where we set it to a destination in Ecamm when I used to do multi-streaming. But for this method that we're talking about, you do actually need to be running this separately as you're streaming from the browser, because you're just using the Ecamm Live virtual cam, if that makes sense. So what that means is that it's the first time that I'd tried actually using the Restream video platform in a browser, and I actually think I do prefer the StreamYard one. There's another little sort of side advantage to this, which is in Amazon, you almost have to educate people that are watching in terms of what they're even watching, because a lot of people aren't used to seeing live video on product pages. So you'll often see people who are on Amazon Live where there's either a scrolling ticker or there's messages coming up on the screen saying, unmute to listen, which sounds obvious, but it's just a scrolling video. And it's not immediately obvious to people who are on Amazon that they've got to unmute to actually watch the stream. So what this means is you would be able to then actually have like a custom ticker, because obviously StreamYard can do, have overlays and things like that. So you could create different overlays for the broadcast in different places, but then you've still got, or I've still got a clean feed of it in 4K just recorded locally. So that's kind of one little learning that I've had already, but I think it's quite a massive one when we've got to get into this whole idea of repurposing content and so on. So that's the first major lesson I would say that I've learned. So once I've then done the live stream, and by the way, another reason that actually it took me a little while to get my stuff together with launching the podcast is the whole onboarding process. I suppose I should make a video about that at some point, but in terms of when you want guests to come on your show, you want to be able to automate the process of, how do they book a slot? So I'm using Calendly for that, but then you need to gather some information. In fact, there is another little lesson. Because what I had originally was, if I just take you through to my booking page, this is actually quite a valuable lesson, because it's something that I'd where's it gone? 1 second. I can't talk and type. I've got to try and master this one day. When I first set this up, thanks Aubrey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. I've just completely lost the context for that one, Michael. Video would be soft as gum, but I must have missed the context there for that one. It's the problem when I don't keep up with the chat. But yeah, let me show you my guest booking process that I've got. So if I come over to this scene over here, there we go. So this is the place where people, if I want to invite someone on the guest, I'll send out a link to them, and then they can come and book a slot. So what I've done is I've actually got a video explaining what it is, because I don't want to have to write out a big long explanation. So of course I created a video all about what the podcast is and why I want to have them on and so on. So this is all just on in Kajabi. That's a little video that got there explaining, and then there is a slot for people to book a time. It's a little bit booked out now. So there we go, up until November. So that's the next free slot. But basically, once somebody goes and books a slot in Kajabi, in Calendly rather, let's say I go and click on this slot and you can choose the slot. Then you can. Sorry, I get you, Michael. Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, it would. That's the issue I had, is the resolution. Makes sense now. So when you get people signing up with Calendly, what you can do is you can have them enter details, and obviously it asks for default is their name and email address, but you can also specify other questions. Obviously, I want to get other information from guests that are coming on, like anything special they want to talk about, their gear list. I've mentioned that we talk about all the gear they got in their studio. I've got a little place for them to either drop a link into their profile photo for me to make the thumbnail, and then also for a picture for their behind the scenes sort of thing. So I wanted to get all of that information. I also asked for book recommendations, one book that they want to feature as well. So there's a few different things that I want to get from them. All their social handles, of course, I need to include that all in the description. The way that I did this originally was I actually just put all those questions into Calendly. And then my good friend, Mr. Rich Graham, was the first one to test this out. And he said, I think you're asking for a bit too much, like right on the front page, because you go in expecting that, I want to book a slot. You pick the slot. And then suddenly, before the booking process is finished, you've been asked for all of this information. Now, I've got to confess, I've been a guest on a few people's podcasts before, and they all use this method. And every time it happens the same with me. I go and click on the booking link. I choose the date. I go through, I realize it needs all this information, and I think, I'll come back and do it later. So, but I just blindly followed that, even though I know that it is not the optimum experience. So it's really strange that I just still went ahead and just did exactly the same there. So now what I've done is I've actually split it. So when somebody books a spot, all they do is they give their name and email address. But then in Calendly, you can have it redirect to your own confirmation page. So I've now got it redirecting to a confirmation page where it explains, I've got another video, explaining some information that I need from them and why I'm asking for that information. And so then in here, in this separate form, I'm asking for their name, their email, their bio, anything that they want to promote on the shot, on the podcast, link to their headshot, behind the scenes picture, all that kind of stuff, favorite bit of tech, what book they're reading, and then all of their social handles. So this is YouTube, Instagram, whichever ones they want to put in. They don't have to fill out all of this. It's just a way for me to collect it if they want to include that sort of stuff in the show notes. And then what that means is I've then got a nice little document then that I can just basically copy all of that and it go into the show notes. So that is kind of like my onboarding process. There is another step in this process, which I'll be honest, I haven't actually done yet. And that is a full video explaining how to actually join the live stream, and how to get the best picture quality, and how to use Ecamm Live interview mode. I haven't got around to doing that yet, and the reason why I've not been so quick to do that is just because all of my guests are all Ecamm users, and they're all pretty much people who do the same kind of thing anyway. So everyone is more or less familiar with that process and how to actually do that. So that is kind of like the onboarding process. Just another quick couple of hey DJ Rob, love to have you on. I'll send you a link separately. And Chris, another one from the UK in as well. Hey, great to see you as well, Chris. I have sent you a link actually, by the way, Chris. If you don't know if you've seen it yet, but I sent it a week or so ago. So just have a check if you've not seen my invite to be on the podcast. But anyway, so that was a bit of a digression into the onboarding process. So that's how to actually get people into the to booking the slot. And that was another little sticking point for me, is I hadn't quite got that all set up. So I wanted it all to run smoothly. So then, having covered that, we've covered the actual live stream process and where I'm streaming to. So then it comes to the actual repurposing and the distribution of the podcast side of stuff. No problem, Chris. I guess you've been busy as long as you've seen it though. So then we come to the actual podcast side of stuff. So basically, I'm really doing minimal editing. The bit of editing that I am doing is, as in true form to all good podcasts, I do want to have little promo spots in the middle of it. I'm not doing adverts as such for, I'm not sponsored by anybody, but I'm using it as an opportunity to promote my own stuff. So I suppose I'm promoting my Ecamm affiliate link. That sounded like I just gave myself a cue. I should probably drop that in there. So I'm promoting my Ecamm stuff. And yeah, by the way, I suppose while we are talking about promos, I should at least say I am, of course, recording the whole podcast with Ecamm Live, which is live production software for the Mac, video production software, of course, and it's what I use to make all of my videos, and it's great for the live stream of the podcast. It's also, as it turns out, absolutely wonderful for audio podcasts too, because if you record them in Ecamm Live interview mode, then you can actually record separate audio tracks. So you get isolated audio from in my case, from myself, from the guest, and also any sound effects or background music. It's all separate. So it means that in the editing, and like if I'm come to repurpose content, which I'll be talking about a bit later as well, I've got a separate audio track for just the guest. So there's not going to be any issue with me, potentially talking over them or something like that. If I, say something, yes, in agreement or something as they're talking, and I want to snip that all down into just a little solo little short, for example, of the guest, then having those isolated audio tracks is really useful. So I highly recommend Ecamm Live. takeonetech.io/ecamm is the place to try that out. So that's an example as well of I would do a promo slot like that actually in the middle of the podcast, but I really didn't want to get into starting to inject those into the live. So perhaps I should be doing them live, but I prefer to just actually record them separately immediately after, and then drop them into the audio podcast. I'll come to that in a moment as well, but I didn't want to disrupt the flow of the conversation that I was having. So it's an hour long, basically live with the guest, and the format, by the way, is obviously a bit of an introduction. The guest, I'm asking for them to give their sort of origin story, how they got into live streaming, and how they're using it, and then there'll be a bit of a focus on one aspect of it with each guest. So, for example, the one I did with JP Hightech, he's a branding expert. So we're talking about how you can use live streaming for specifically for branding and to help build your brand. That was a great conversation. Last week, earlier this week, talking with Dr. Elo. I've been really admiring his workflow in terms of repurposing his content, and just I'm always seeing his stuff everywhere. So he's got that down now in terms of his process. So I wanted him to share that. So there's like the bulk of the show is going to be about, or is about, this particular aspect of what they're doing in live streaming, and then we come on to the part at the end where we actually go behind the scenes, look at their setup, talk about gear, what their favorite gear is, all of that kind of thing. So there are some distinct sort of segments, if you like, in terms of the recording of the show. So yeah, I'm putting in these sort of little promo shots, promo segments, I should say, in between those points. But like I say, I didn't want to do it in the middle of the actual live recording. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation to kind of break for commercial, as it were. But I'm happy to put them in as an after thing during for the audio recording and also the video recording. So that brings me on to the video point of view in terms of the video recording of it. I really wasn't sure about posting these to my this YouTube channel, Take One Tech YouTube channel, and I don't know quite why I was thinking that. I was wondering whether it would be on message, or whether it would be people that were subscribers would not like to see that on the channel. And I asked some close friends what they thought, and Keely was the first to answer with the obvious answer. Yes, you definitely should be putting this on your YouTube channel. So like I say, it was one of those things that after the fact I thought, I'm not really sure why I was even worried about it. But obviously I cover a lot of things to do with live streaming and content creation on the channel anyway. So of course it is a natural fit for it to be here. So I'm basically recording them on Tuesday. And then what I'm going to try and get into the workflow of record on Tuesday and then actually post on Thursday. So far, though, I've recorded JP's on Tuesday and posted it on, I think it was on the following Monday. Dr. Elo, I recorded it on Tuesday. I'll be posting it either later today or tomorrow. But then next week, I'm just going to try and get into the flow of, record on Tuesday, do any editing, putting in the ad spots, things like that, and then posting it on the following Thursday. So there's like a sort of 2-day gap between it. But in terms of that editing, there's not really a huge amount to do. It's just literally chop the very, very beginning and end off where there's a bit of a run into it. There's a bit of a weird thing with Amazon Live where you have to basically control the live stream from your mobile. So what it means is you have to sort of go live from whichever platform you're using, be it Ecamm or this method that I'm talking about, going from Ecamm to StreamYard and out to Amazon. So you go live from those platforms, but then you have to control the actual live stream from your mobile. So you wait to receive, or wait till Amazon says it's received the incoming feed from the streaming platform, and then you hit go live on the mobile. But what that means is when you're streaming to LinkedIn and Amazon, there's this like a few second gap. You can't just go straight into it and hit the live button and be immediately live. So I have to just sort of snip that off. But that is about it in terms of editing. Then obviously I've then got the video version, and I've also just extracting the audio from that for the audio podcast. By the way, another little lesson that I learned that I didn't realize was in Ecamm, the audio that comes out of Ecamm is an M.M4A. audio file, but actually you need to have .mp3 as for a podcast for it to be readable, if you like, file format by all podcast players. So although the .m4a can be read by many or even potentially most, when I posted it, there was somebody in the Take One Tech community who just mentioned that M.M4a can't be read by some. So that was another little lesson that I needed to make sure that it was converted and uploaded as a .mp3. All these little things come from experience or lack of experience and trying things out. So at some point I'll sort of document all this and put it all together in a sort of an easy to follow guide, I suppose, or maybe a video or maybe a PDF or something like that. But I've still got a lot to learn before I get around to doing that. Hey, Michelle, great to see you here. My friend and author, published author, Michelle. I've not got a link for your book. I should have a link at the ready. But I have been putting it in all the carousels on Amazon though. So. So that is the sort of limit of the editing that I'm doing for the main recorded version. However, I am also converting all of these into short form content as well, because these people that are coming on, as I say so far, JP and Dr. Elo and all the guests that I've got lined up as well, they've got some real wealth of experience to share. And so, of course, you can watch the whole thing on YouTube, the whole recording. And I've set up a playlist for it as well. So we've got the live Streamer Backstage playlist. So that will be sort of on the YouTube channel. But having these little sort of 1 minute bite size gems of information is I'm really pleased about that sort of side of it and really excited about it. So looking to share that all on LinkedIn and IG and TikTok, not LinkedIn, on Instagram and TikTok. I'll drop my links for Instagram and also for TikTok in the chat. You find them down in the description as well. But there I'm doing the short form content, and it's actually because of the format that I've got with the recording, where it's basically two talking heads side by side. It does make it very easy to actually just take a little slice of just the guest side and then repurpose that into a short. I should probably just give you a little example of that so you can see what I've been doing with it. If I go to, I should probably just use my own link here. Just 1 second. I'll grab this up and I'll just show you what I've been doing. But what this has been the first bit of actual editing that I've been doing on this, for Take One Tech. The whole thing about Take One Tech is that there are no edits. So, actually having to dive into doing some editing has been quite interesting. That is a whole new learning experience. So here are my reels. So you can see that basically this is, I suppose you can't see the full image, but this is basically just like a slice taken down of the part of the screen where the guest is. I purposely made the overlays so that when I'm doing the actual live recording, I've got a sort of lower third with the title of the podcast. It's got a little ticker for the folks in Amazon and some other information in there. But then when I actually come to make the short form, then that is the perfect slot to actually just put the logo for the actual thing itself. So here's an example of a reel. I could probably actually, if I play this, if I put the audio so you could hear it. No, I'm not hearing that now. Oh, 1 second. Maybe it's coming through on a different thing. Oh, I've got to actually unmute it in there, haven't I?
I used to fail. Subtle art of not.
So that's an example of one of the reels. And I'm basically, there's so many little snippets of information, little nuggets of information that I can pull out, and little tips and things like that people are giving from obviously Elo and JP so far. So many little great parts of great bits of information that are useful for live streamers. So the idea of just breaking these all down into short little videos made perfect sense. So as I say, I've been posting those to TikTok, to Instagram as well. I'm also posting them as shorts, but what I'm trying to do with the shorts where possible, I don't know if you picked up from there, but that was really edited. So, cutting out little gaps. There's parts where I've really condensed it down and chopped out big chunks of it to just get into a concise message. One of the great things that YouTube have introduced recently is the ability to actually, as a content creator, create shorts from your own content. So this is not the same as clips. Anyone can go in and just clip a part of a YouTube video and send out a link to it. But actually, you have to do this on the mobile app, whereby you can go into your existing long form videos and then you can choose like a portion of it that you want to extract, and then just right from in the video itself, in the YouTube interface on your mobile, you can actually share that as a short to your own channel. So that's really great to be able to repurpose your content directly, repurpose your long form content. And what's also great about it is it does actually have a link to the long form video as well. So if somebody's looking at that on a short, they'll actually see at the bottom, this is taken from this video or whatever, and they can click that to go and see the whole long form video. So as a way to actually sort of expand the reach of whatever it is you're doing and have that link back into the long form content, it's great. The only issue with it so far, but it's such a new feature, so I'm sure that this will get developed over time. The only issue with it so far that I've got is you can't actually edit anything. So you're literally just taking a snippet out of the middle and then you're posting that. The benefit of some of these shorts or these short form videos that I'm editing is that you can really tighten everything up and make it work really well just as a short. So I'm hoping that at some point in the future we will get the opportunity to, or the feature whereby we can actually edit our long form videos in YouTube Studio and still get that same link back to the original long form, whilst being able to not just take a contiguous sort of stretch of the timeline, but actually just sort of chop bits out and things like that. But at the moment, we can't do that. So whilst I can get a few of these little shorts out, so I did one from JP's interview where I got, he just spoke an absolute, 40-second pearl of wisdom, and I just chopped it out and posted it directly as a short. There were some other ones where I'd wanted to sort of stitch some things together. So those I've just had to post the original, the edited version that I'd edited out of YouTube, post it in there, and then just put an actual link into the long form section. So this is something that's new to me, the whole editing, and I really feel like very rusty and slow when it comes to actually working my way around the programs. I'm using Premiere Pro just because I've got Adobe Suite, so I've got Premiere Pro with that. I'll probably, everyone always talks about Final Cut being, the content creator's choice, so I probably will try that one as well. But for the moment, I'm using Premiere Pro. But yeah, I feel I'm so used to working in apps where I can just sort of, I have the muscle memory to just fly around them. I'm very much kind of like looking down at the keyboard and, pressing things like this, and not knowing how to do such simple things and having to go to the University of YouTube to figure out, okay, how do I just resize this video so that it will fit into this vertical format? there's just so many little learning experiences that I've had to do. So that's why it's taken me basically almost a week to get out the longer form version, because I've been playing around with these short form videos and trying to just very slowly edit them. But I've got into a bit of a workflow now. Incidentally, this particular one that's on screen at the moment, you'll notice that this has got the book. So part of the idea behind the book recommendation that I'm asking my guests to give is because I'm a big reader, and there are so many great books out there that can have a profound impact on what it is you're doing. So I definitely want to have folks share those books. I'm going to put this all together into a playlist ultimately, which will be a sort of content creators book club, if you like, where it's got all of these books. But I have also got my Amazon shop. So just coming back to the sort of monetization thing, this is then taking people through to my my shop. So takeonetech.shop will take people to my my Amazon shop basically, and in there I've got an entire playlist, which is, or an entire list, I should say, a shopping list. If I just come over to that for a second. Which is just all of the books and things like that people are have recommended on the show. So and then obviously I'll be talking about this in the Discord as well, and we can sort of have a discussion about it. But if I go over to here, 1 second, I'll show you what I'm talking about, just in case anyone's interested in finding these. It's not on my store on my website. I have actually got it as a if you follow that link, takeonetech.shop, then that will take you, 2, he looks for the Stream Deck button. This is my shop on Amazon. Now here you'll find my latest live stream will always be at the top, but then you can have sort of curated lists. So, and these are a couple of my shoppable videos, which are about particular products. But right at the top here, I've got basically 4 pinned lists. So one of them is book recommendations from the live Streamer Backstage guests. I've also got one which is all of the gear. So anything that anyone mentions on the live Streamer Backstage podcast, if ever you want to go back and find it, then you can just click into this list and then you'll be able to see, you know, all of the different things that people have got and they recommend in their studio. So it's just like a complete resource for everything that everyone has ever recommended on the podcast. Then I've also got my own live streaming studio gear set up, and then I've got one for Zoom. So people who are just looking to up their Zoom game, I've got a Zoom shopping list there as well, or gear list, I should say. But this is the one, this book recommendations. This is any books that are recommended. Any books that are recommended, you will find in here. So this would be where you could come to get that. So just coming back to those reels then, that is where I'm going to be sort of recommending these things as well. I'm putting a little short snippet up there. So I figured that this is all going to be useful to folks who are, as I say, folks who are live streamers. Just checking in with the chat. Hello, Brian. I've just noticed you've popped in. Great to see you here. Thank you very much for coming through from Toronto. So we got a couple of the Canadian contingent in today. It is a great book, that one. I haven't actually read it all the way through. I've started reading it, but I've not got too far. I've had it in my list for ages, and then it was only after Dr. Elo that mentioned it that I thought, you know what, that's actually I own it, but I've just not got around to listening to it. So I've been getting into that one a little bit more just the last day or two. So the all of that to say that very long digression was to say that I have been I've been repurposing the content, and so I'm getting into a little workflow. I've got a couple of little templates set up for this now in Premiere Pro, so that can be hopefully a little bit quicker for now, or going forward, I should say. So. The other big learning experience then, I've mentioned that I'm dropping in these little promo segments into it. And I'm doing that by editing the video and actually physically going and dropping in the video that I've got with the little promo. And then that obviously includes the audio when it goes out as an audio podcast. When I set up the podcast, first of all, I started on Anchor because I've heard lots of good things about, Anchor. So that's where I put the first little trailer episode for my podcast. I put it up on there. Then I was thinking, right, well, I want to put this over on my Kajabi website so that people can actually go and see it. And in fact, if people go to livestreamerbackstage.com, obviously you've got to have the separate .com, but all that does is that actually takes people through to my website. And where has it gone? Let me just bring it up. So that basically takes them through to my website over here where the podcast is. But I've registered with Anchor, and then I thought, right, well, I want to actually get this, onto my website, obviously. And then when I went into Kajabi, I realized, well, you can actually just do podcast. You can actually host your podcast with Kajabi, and they'll deal with all the distribution for you. So I posted the first trailer version in Anchor, and then immediately after I had announced it to everybody, I immediately moved it over to Kajabi and set it up in here. So in here, you've got obviously the title of the podcast. Here's where people can subscribe on there, get the different feeds for whichever podcast player they're using, and then the actual episodes appear down here. So I thought, well, that's good. That's all streamlined. I'm paying for Kajabi anyway to have it all in there, just all in one place. That made perfect sense to me. Then I spoke to Rich Graham, and he was telling me, it was just after he'd been to the big podcast show that there was recently, and he was talking about when you use Captivate, so that's another platform for, a podcast aggregator, they've got this really cool feature, which is that you can put the spots in the audio where you want your ad reads to go, and then you can go back after the fact and actually just insert the ad reads, at a later date, or more to the point, change them. Now, that's very useful if you've got something that's like, a seasonal offer or something like that. You're running a promo in, Black Friday deal or something like that. And you want to just go back and actually add that particular promo code into all of your back catalog for that particular time. That's really powerful. And I thought, yeah, I definitely need to be doing that, because at some point in the future, it may be that I get somebody who wants to sponsor the podcast, in which case I could literally go through and add in an ad for that sponsor into all of the back episodes. The same with if I've got new products to launch. I'm looking at launching I've got a whole series of courses that I'm releasing. So I've obviously got 2 so far, the Ecamm Live Masterclass and the Zoom Masterclass, but I've also got another 10 in the pipeline. I say in the pipeline, I haven't done a huge amount on all of them, but I'm making progress with some of them. And so I'm going to want to promote those. And sorry, Dina, great question, just to explain that. I know you know, but thanks for the question. Yeah, so doing it like an ad read, as in, reading a bit of promo for a particular product or service, or for my own, actually just that segment that you get in the middle of the podcast where you're talking about, doing the little pitch, if you like, for whatever it is you're talking about. So getting those, being able to record those separately at a later date and just drop them in whenever necessary is something that's really a good a good feature of Captivate. I haven't actually signed up to Captivate yet. I just have not had the time. But what I'll do is I will drop in Rich's affiliate link for Captivate. I will be doing it probably this week, Monday or Tuesday, because I'll get the podcast moved over to there, because I don't want to go in and manually add in audio promo segments in the middle of the hard baked into it, if you like, or baked into it. It's a bit of a mixed metaphor there, but you know what I mean. I don't want to have them fixed in there for too long, because I do want to be able to go back and edit them afterwards or switch them out. So highly recommend checking out that Captivate link. In fact, if I come over here, this is Captivate podcast hosting, and you also get much better stats than I get with Kajabi in any case. So with Kajabi, basically just tells me how many downloads. I haven't also got a huge amount of flexibility in terms of the design of the layout and stuff like that on the Kajabi site in any case. So it's not like I've got a huge amount of flexibility that I'd be losing. I'm basically just gaining all of these extra features, and it's a really, really great feature. Hey, Caleb, sorry, I've just realized I just missed you there. Hey, great to see you here as well. Anchor. I don't think with Anchor you can do the part where you retroactively insert the ads. I might be wrong about that, but I might be wrong about that. But I understand that this is something that is, that's something that Captivate does, and it's Anyway, this is the way that I'm going to look, but yeah. So that means that I do have to switch over. So basically, I'm 2 weeks into my podcast, and I'm already be going to my my third podcast aggregator. So it's all these little things that, when you just sort of charge into something. I felt like I'd done a lot of planning, because I'd planned all of the sort of back end stuff, the onboarding process. But I clearly had not done enough research on the actual platform to distribute it. So I'll be definitely looking into this. Well, I'll just be moving over to it, frankly, but I'll be then, I'll be making some making some videos about it. You can bet I'll be making some videos about it, and then also including that in any documentation. I'm sure there will be a podcast course coming on at some point in the future where I'll talk like I know what I'm talking about, but you'll all know that it started out very rough around the edges. Being able to promote those things. By the way, I'm also working on an idea for a subscription model for my courses, because like I say, I've got 2 courses there at the moment. I've got a load more that are coming down the line as well. I'm not going to be stopping what I'm doing on YouTube, so I'm not switching to everything's behind a paywall. But I know from my own experience, because I like this, and I know from all the people who have done my Ecamm course, for example, I've had over 100 people done that so far. What people like about courses and why people pay for courses is information is free, but they'll pay for organization. I think that was Stephanie Liu said that on when she was interviewed on .rocks once, but that really stuck with me. That is the thing. You can find out any information, but sometimes people just want to be taken through a structured process with it, and so that's why there is a value in courses. But as I'm doing so many, I want to make them accessible to people. And so I thought, well, if I had a subscription model, then that would mean that there wouldn't be the big, upfront cost for it. Because at the moment, like my Ecamm Masterclass is $147. My Zoom Masterclass is $497, but actually there's 20% off if you use the offer code ECAMFAM. But nevertheless, it is a large, outgoing, isn't it, for somebody to pay for that. Whereas if there was a subscription model where they could get access to all of the courses for something like $147 a month, $47 a month, which is the kind of ballpark that I'm thinking, where they get that access. Because at the moment with I'm going on down a bit of a rabbit hole here. I'm just workshopping this. I hope you all don't mind. And if you've got any feedback, I'll really appreciate it. At the moment, the thing behind it is it's one price and it's a higher price, but it is kind of lifetime access. So you get access, to all of the updates. Whereas with a subscription model, it would be a much lower cost, but you get access for the time that you are a member. But there is always new content coming because, as I say, I've got a whole series of other courses planned to come out that are all based around the same kind of thing. So I know that they're all going to serve the same kind of serve the community, serve the same niche, if you like, of live streamers who like productivity and work on Macs and those kind of things. So yeah, that's the sort of demographic that is. I hate to use that word demographic, but you know what I mean. It is a thing. So yeah, having that as a monthly subscription that gives you access to all of the courses, then it means that when a new course comes out, you've immediately got access to it without thinking, oh, it's another another thing to add on. So yeah, that is where I'm at with that. Literally just in the process of workshopping it in front of all of you folks. Thanks, Aubrey. I appreciate you adding that because yeah, it is something that I need to just sort of think about and yeah, just make it accessible to more people really. So how did I get onto going down that route? Well, I was talking about ultimately making a podcast course. That's how I got down that rabbit hole. So yeah, that is something I'm working on and should probably be announcing something in the next, I would say the next month or so. I've also got to be conscious of the fact that people have already paid. So I need to, when you sort of change your model, you need to be conscious of the fact that, some people have already paid upfront for, the large course. So I need to just work out what is the best way to do that and to, do that in a fair way. So it will probably just be an overall discount on the subscription so that it sort of offsets what people have already paid, something like that. But I'll figure this out. These are all ideas that are spinning around in my head. If anyone's got any ideas, thoughts, or feedback, feel free to either drop them in the chat or feel free to message me with your thoughts and feedback on all of this as well. I'm always open to suggestions. So I suppose the sort of final part of this that I wanted to talk about was a little bit about the monetization, because it is something that's in the, in my mind when I'm doing all of this. There is a sort of longer term plan for it. So I wanted to talk about how all of this I see as fitting into it. And actually, I'm going to do a live stream. It might be next week. It might be the following week where I talk about like the overall Take One Tech strategy, if you like, because I have been spending a lot of time, certainly in the last few months, thinking really a lot more about this in terms of the platforms that I'm on, the choice of platforms where I'm directing my time and attention. Just say bye to Peter, just having to pop out of the backstage. Thanks for coming and joining me. It's always nice to chat. I tend to be a little bit late starting my live streams these days because we get off on a conversation beforehand. So if you're interested to join the live stream, the backstage area, then do check out the channel memberships down below. Since we are talking about monetization, you can become a channel member, and there are various perks associated with that. And one of them is this whole backstage pass level where you can join in the live stream on the backstage, and then I can see you in Discord, and then we always have a bit of a chat afterwards as well. So that is channel memberships. So yeah, I will talk just briefly about the membership. About the monetization of the podcast and my sort of thoughts around that. But I also just want to mention as well, since we talked about Amazon Live, I do also do a live stream every Sunday, which I call the Sunday session, very imaginatively, and that is at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Amazon Live as well. So if you're not already, then I'll just drop this in there just in case once again. So takeonetech.live is the way you can get to my Amazon Live page, and then you can follow me there. And so what that is that's basically where I do a sort of deep dive into a particular bit of tech. A lot of people think, by the way, that Amazon Live is for selling, where you're basically got your own little QVC shop, shopping channel, where you're pulling out all different products and things like that. Certainly that is a format that some people do, but you don't have to be just there, showcasing, one product after one product after the next on there. You can do different things. And so obviously the live Streamer Backstage podcast is going there. Well, this one, the Sunday session, is where I do a real deep dive tutorial into one particular thing. So this week just gone, it was the Loop Deck Live, where I did a sort of start to finish whole setup of it. That was a sort of 2-hour live stream over there. The week before I did a similar thing for Stream Deck. So that was another, I think that one went on for about 3.5 hours actually. But it was a real sort of deep dive into the Stream Deck. This next Sunday, I'm going to be doing a whole thing about teleprompters, where I'll talk about my teleprompter setup that I've got right now. So in case you didn't know, I do use a teleprompter, not to read notes, but just to see what is going out on the channel. And if I just pull up this thing, I can just quickly show you in case you are interested. I'll show you what I'm working with, but I'm going to be doing a whole live all about that. So if I come over here for a second, and then I'll just switch over to this shot. You can see there that I have got, I've moved my nice massive big clock up onto the top of the teleprompter. But there is my teleprompter. I've got the camera behind it, and I'm basically seeing whatever is going out on the screen to you. I'm seeing that in the teleprompter. So that is what I'm using. It's great for Zoom calls to be able to have eye contact with people. And I'll be doing a whole thing, as I say, on the Sunday session, which is specifically about teleprompters. So talking about the different models that are available, how you set them up, how you use them, and the benefits of using them for live streaming, but also on Zoom as well. So as I say, every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over there. So just to wrap up then, I'll talk a little bit about this whole sort of monetization side of the podcast. It's not going to be bringing in the big bucks anytime soon, but I did want to get off on that foot right from the beginning, and so that's why it is on Amazon. There is an opportunity there to you can see immediately after the stream, I can already see how many sales came as a direct result of those two previous live streams that I did for the podcast, and then obviously the residual where I'm posting to YouTube. In the description of the YouTube of the podcast, then all of the gear list, for example, and the book recommendations are all in there. So there is that that sort of whole side of stuff, which is in my regular videos. You'll find that I do have my own gear down below in the description, but people may have already seen all of that. So the sort of existing subscribers, existing viewers may be familiar with all of that. Whereas basically this is an opportunity to have a complete different set of, of gear, of products that may be of interest to people. So that is down in the description of all of the podcast episodes that are posted as well. I haven't done so yet, but I will also be starting to create a blog. I've been meaning to create a blog on my website for since I started the channel really, but I just haven't got around to it. But doing a blog summary of the podcast is something that I'm aiming to do. That would include all of the links in as well, and then that would obviously have a link back to the full video as well of the podcast. So that's something else I need to work on. In terms of where this fits into the channel as well. Oh, and another aside, obviously, is the other monetization aspect to the video, to the podcast, is to reach just a completely new audience that maybe aren't aware of my channel just through the audio, and then having those, little promo spots for the other different things I'm doing in terms of my digital products, the courses, and all of that kind of thing. That will all be then in the audio version, in those little ad spots that I do in the middle as well. So it is all kind of funneling back into the wider community. I always used to think of the, Take One Tech as being a YouTube channel that's got all of this other stuff around it. I've really shifted my focus to be more of it is the sort of overall community, and in Discord specifically, and I've just really been enjoying since getting onto the setting up the Discord server with Keely's help to be to just really have that level of engagement that was missing before in YouTube. It's just been a really great experience, and so that's it's kind of shifted to like all roads are leading into that now, and then that is kind of the hub as opposed to before everything leading into YouTube. Although YouTube is still the primary platform there. And so, it's just, I see the podcast as being a great addition to that. It's a way to reach out to, other audience members that maybe wouldn't have found it before, or maybe existing ones that like the idea of, listening to these sort of interview style things. They are ideally suited to listening on audio. So I'm sure there's going to be many people who would watch on the who would watch my channel, but would actually prefer to just actually listen to these interview shows on audio. So it's just just broadening the net really. I am also really pleased though that it has finally pushed me into editing because of having to make the short form content. It's also made me get it more into the TikTok and Instagram Reels. It's funny, I think it was only about 3 weeks ago that I was saying I'm not really sure that those platforms are for me, and I think that they're not in terms of me making my own short form content. Maybe I'll change my mind on this in a little while, a few weeks or months. But I think that they are ideally suited to repurposing all of this interview stuff, and so to kind of push me outside of my comfort zone a little bit to get into doing that has been really good, because I do like to do things that stretch myself. So interested to learn that new skill. I'll see where it goes in terms of editing longer form videos. I'll still be doing just the general thing as one take. I do always see that there is an opportunity, though, for me to tighten up my content a little bit, for want of a better word. I do tend to waffle, and it could certainly be made more concise. So I don't think you'll be seeing any like really majorly fully edited videos. But now that I'm getting more into it and getting into a workflow where it wouldn't actually take me that long to just tighten things up, I may end up doing a few little minor edits, and as I say, just making things a little bit more concise for the longer form stuff as well. So it probably will all feed back into that. Hey Doc, just seeing you pop in. I've missed the context of that one. I would say big timekeeper to avoid slips of the tongue. I missed what I must have said there. I'll have to get that from you later. Discord is the center and the rest supports it. Yes, definitely. And incidentally, Keely will be on not next week, the following week, to talk all about this kind of stuff as well. So really looking forward to that. It's going to be an interesting one, because we talk so much anyway about all the stuff to do with Discord. So it's going to be an interesting interview because we've talked about it all so much in so much depth that it'll be great to see and to share. Let's have a little look at this comment from Doc. This is going to be a pearl of wisdom, I'm sure. Broke people take 3 weeks to learn how to edit and then make $2,000 in the last week editing. Keep working at that pace and you're 8K. Yes. So yeah, that was an intentional one, that one. Yeah, my big clock. So yeah, it has been good to get into the editing though, and just sort of play about with Reels. The thing about that as well is with those platforms, as well as the as well as the repurposed Reels that I've been doing, I have been playing around a little bit, making some silly little edited ones. And one of the benefits of only having like 100 followers on Instagram is it feels like, well, I've got some room to play there at the moment, and I don't really mind making a little bit of a fool of myself. So I probably will do a few more of those, because they are quite fun to do. So that is where I'm up with the podcast. But I do feel though it's been only 2 weeks, and I have already learned a hell of a lot with it, and I'm sure there's going to be more lessons to learn along the way. I mean, Doc, obviously you've been talking about podcasts on YouTube. So where else to put them? And they did, sure enough, just announce that they've got the YouTube tab on. They got the podcast tab on YouTube. At the moment, it's a bit unsure as to exactly how that is working. There only seems to be, I'm still not entirely sure how you sort of specify that your thing is a podcast as opposed to what is on the rest of my channel. I am adding, obviously, the hashtag podcast in any of them. But it's I think it's a good time to be doing it. It's certainly a good time for me because I'm just ready to do it and I'm enthused about it, whereas I wasn't when I attempted it before. So I think whatever time we are in the whole sort of podcasting space, you do have to be interested and engaged and, actually really want to do it. So 60% of creators I talk to these shows hate editing. If you need to learn to edit, the market is wide open. Oh yeah, so if you want, you can outsource this kind of stuff. But I'm just enjoying actually. I'm enjoying the process of learning a new skill. Hey, this is great to see you here, Mr. Scott. It's great to see you here. How's life in Japan treating you? Yeah, big move that you had recently. So yeah, great to see you. Yeah, who's the new guy popping in? It's algorithmically added to the podcast tab. Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, I've been obviously. Yeah. I've been mentioning podcasts in the description, in the hashtags and all that kind of stuff that I've been putting in there as well. So great stuff. So yeah, that is where I am at with everything. And I'm sure I'll give another big update when I've made a whole load of new mistakes and learned some lessons for that as well. So yeah, thank you all for coming and hanging out. It's been great to see all of the lovely familiar faces and new faces in here as well. And yeah, I thought you might be jealous of Steve being in Japan. So until next time, I will catch you hopefully on the Sunday session. If you get a chance to find that over on Amazon Live, that is the next time that I will be live streaming over there this Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Amazon Live. But until then, have a great day, week, whatever it is for you. And for those watching on the replay, I'll leave a link to some other great video just over here for you. And thanks also to my wonderful channel members whose names you can see on screen right now.